What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports here on the Miami channel at the voice of college football. We're going to break down the 2022 schedule here for Miami. Before we get into the new schedule, let's look back at the 2021 schedule for this Miami football team. Miami had one of the toughest non-conference schedules in the country in 2021. Had to play Alabama, had to play Michigan State, and then App State. So that was a really tough non-conference schedule. You look at who they had to play out of the Atlantic Division. They had to play NC State and they had to play Florida State. So they avoided Wake Forest and Clemson, but still not an easy schedule. They didn't get to play, say a Syracuse. And that was the schedule for last year. Let's look ahead to this season. And here is your 2022 schedule for Miami. Before we go game by game, let's look at who they play outside of the division. So who does Miami play in the non-conference and out of the Atlantic Division? Because of course they're going to play every team in the Coastal. They will play Bethune-Cookman, Southern Miss, and then on the road at Texas A&M and then Middle Tennessee. That'll be the non-conference schedule. Yes, Texas A&M is a very tough game, and it's a very tough place to play. So that is a really tough non-conference game there with Texas A&M. But other than that, I mean, it's much easier than it was last year. Bethune-Cookman, Southern Miss, Middle Tennessee, three what should be easy wins there for Miami. But again, a very tough game against Texas A&M. They'll play Florida State, who they always play out of the Atlantic. But then they'll play Clemson. They will play Clemson on the road. That is a tough one. It's going to be late in the year. So maybe that's why they did not schedule a second quality non-conference game, because they knew they were going to be playing Clemson this year. But yes, Clemson on the road, Texas A&M on the road. Two very tough games. Probably two top, let's say top 10 teams. Probably two top 10 teams on the road there for Miami. So going game by game, they start with Bethune-Cookman, then Southern Miss. That'll be their first two games. Nice to have two games like that to get started, work out the kinks, especially with the new coaching staff and everything. Then the big one against Texas A&M on September the 17th. Because that one's on the road, it's going to be very tough. Let's just be honest. It's going to be tough for Miami to win that game. Not saying they can't win it, but they will definitely be underdogs. And then they'll play Middle Tennessee on the 24th. So you get the non-conference games out of the way, then they roll into conference play. On October the 8th, they will play North Carolina at home. Could be a big game in the division. We'll see where North Carolina stands. I feel better about Miami than I do about North Carolina coming into this year. Virginia Tech on the road on the 15th. Then they'll play Duke on the 22nd. Virginia on the 29th. So you look at that schedule for the month of October, and it's not horrible. It's not horrible. And they actually have a bye week, by the way, before North Carolina. So the first Saturday of October, they will have a bye week. And so they'll have a bye week before they play their conference games, and then it'll just be 8 straight weeks of conference games. But a very manageable October. North Carolina, Virginia Tech, Duke, Virginia, all winnable games. If I had to say right now, I'd probably say Miami is going to be favored in those 4 games. Of course, the ACC has been pretty unpredictable in recent years, so Virginia Tech could wind up being a top 15 team. Who knows? But a very manageable schedule for the month of October. If they're able to get through that schedule, and let's say they do lose to Texas A&M, they could still be sitting at 7-1 going into the month of November. They'd probably be ranked pretty high, and then everything's right there in front of them. A very tough stretch to finish it out, though. On the 5th, they'll play Florida State. Then they'll play Georgia Tech on November the 12th on the road. Then it's Clemson on the road on the 19th and Pittsburgh on the 26th. So they will close out the year with Pitt. That's the schedule right there. I think there's a good chance this Miami team could be 7-1 going into November, like I said. Now, if we get some of the performances we've gotten in recent years for Miami, they'll probably lose to some teams that they should beat. So I'm not saying they have an easy 7-1, but it's very possible that they could be 7-1. Then again, a huge game with Florida State. But it could come down, at least the division could come down to that last Saturday. That game against Pittsburgh, that could be where we determine this division if those wind up being the top 2 teams. Again, I think this division's kind of wide open this year. I don't think Pitt's going to be quite as good as they were last season. Miami will have a great shot. But that month of November, that's where we're going to find out about Miami. Is this team for real? Are they a contender? Or are they the same Miami team we've seen in recent years Going to be really interesting to see. And that's, again, if they can survive that month of October. North Carolina, Virginia Tech, Duke, and Virginia. You like their chances in those games, but they could, obviously, they could lose one of those games for sure. But if they can take care of business and win those 4 games, November, that's where we will find out about this Miami team and where they stand in the big picture in college football, and really also in the division race with that game against Pittsburgh there to close things out. So a schedule that's manageable for Miami. Not as tough as last year's. You hate to see, if you're a Miami fan, you hate to see Clemson on the road there towards the end of the season. And you got a tough non-conference game with Texas A&M, but a division that's wide open gives Miami a chance really in every other game that they play. Not saying they don't have a chance against A&M or Clemson, but they have a really good chance in the other 10 games, even with those 2 really tough matchups on the road.